Hey, this is Jeffrey Pepper Rogers back with another episode of Guitar Sessions. And what I just played there is a little bit of Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones, as played by Keith Richards in Open G tuning. So, Open G is one of the basic, essential, most common open tunings, along with Drop D, Open D, Dadgad, Double Drop D. And earlier episodes of this series, there's one dedicated to Open D and the song The Cave by Mumford & Sons. There's also an intro lesson to Dadgad, so you can explore around earlier in this series to check out some of those other tunings. But for today, we're going to focus on Open G. And there's a bunch of classic songs in Open G, some early Joni Mitchell like The Circle Game. There's a great Pete Seeger song called Quite Early Morning. I have a video up of that. Played in Open G as an adaptation of his banjo part. Jorma Kaukonen's Water Song is a great Open G instrumental. But of course, we're going to focus on Wild Horses here. But first, we're going to just get oriented in Open G. I'm going to go through some of the most important common shapes, kind of a library of chords to use, and some typical moves in Open G to get you started. So as with all the episodes in this series, you can find the charts and the tab for everything over on Patreon. So let's dig in. And first thing, of course, let's get in tune. So the notes of Open G are, that's a D on the 6th string, a G on the 5th string, D on the 4th, another G on the 3rd string, B on the 2nd string, and a D on the 1st string. So we're tuning 3 strings down and leaving 3 in standard tuning. 6th string goes down a step to D, 5th string down a step to G, 1st string down a step to D. So as with other open tunings, the open strings give us a chord. So this is a G major chord, just on the open strings. What's a little different about Open G is that the root is on the 5th string, so our G note there is on the 5th string, not on the bottom. But so if you want a straight G major chord with the root in the bass, you can play it from the 5th string up. But you can use that 6th string because that D note, of course, is part of a G chord also. So the first thing that you can do in any open chord type of tuning is to throw a bar up at the 5th and 7th fret and get your 4 and 5 chords. So let's start with that. So I'm going to bar the 5th fret. I'm just going to do the top 5 strings right now, although you could bar all 6. That gives me a C chord, so that's my 4 chord in the key of G. Move it up 2 frets, and I've got a D, which is the 5 chord. And there, I do have a D note in the bass, so I can definitely play it with the open 6th string and the rest barred. So 1, 4, 5. But there are nice, easy ways to play the 4 and 5 chords down in open position too. So this is one of the shapes most often used in Open G tuning. You might think of this as like using an A minor 7 type of shape on top of the Open G tuning. Or think of it like you've got a C fingering, but then you're going to leave the 5th string open. So fretting only the 4th and 2nd strings here now. And that gives me a C add 9 over G. So a nice sounding voicing that you can use when you go to your 4 chord, when you go to a C. And then for D, 2 shapes. This is a little like playing a regular D shape, but I'm leaving the 1st string open. So I've got my second string, 3rd fret, 3rd string, 2nd fret, but then I'm going to fret the 5th string at the 2nd fret. That gives me a D5. So there's a nice way to play that D chord. And one other good one to start with, similar to the last one, but it's a D7. So I got 5th string, 2nd fret, 3rd string, 2nd fret, 2nd string, 1st fret. And that Pete Seeger song that I mentioned just uses, it's a finger-picked song, but there's our 1, goes to the 5 using that D7, back to the G, and then for the 4 chord, the C. Piece of how that song works. So the next basic thing in Open G, we put this down over those open strings, and those are often used in combination with each other. Well, we can do the same thing with the bar. So if I go to that C bar at the 5th fret, and I add this shape, that A minor 7 type shape, on top of it with my other fingers, this gives me an F add 9 over C. And that's a shape we're going to use in Wild Horses. And also just a move going between this chord and that one that you'll hear in a bunch of songs. In fact, you can make a whole bunch of Rolling Stones songs by just variations on this idea of the bar with this added on top, like this one. There's Start Me Up. That's that C bar hammering onto that shape on top. So Keith Richards makes a lot of hay out of just this move of using a bar in open G tuning, putting this on top, or even just that note on the 2nd string. Songs like Brown Sugar and a whole bunch more played that way. So one more really important basic shape is this one. So I got 5th string, 2nd fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, open 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st fret. This is an A minor shape, which is actually an A minor 11, really nice sounding chord. And if you slide that up, you get a B minor, which is actually a B minor flat 6. But those shapes often used in combination with each other. In fact, that's one of the moves in Joni Mitchell's Circle Game. B minor, A minor, down to the open. One of the basic building blocks of that song. I'm going to run through a bunch of open G shapes now. First, here are a lot of ways to play G. Of course, no fretting at all. Add on the 1st string, 5th fret, for another way to play G. If I fret the 2nd string at the 3rd fret, that gives me a G5. Or if I just leave that 1st string open, that's a G5 also. Then, of course, you can move up the neck. I'm at the 8th fret on the 2nd string. It's a G5. If I add in the 1st string up at the 9th fret, that's a G major. Yet another way to play G major up the neck. So even though our open strings are a major chord, we can play minor chords too. So there's a G minor. Alternate way to play G minor. Up at the 8th fret is another G minor. And at the 11th and 12th fret, another G minor. Going back down again, we have, there's a G7 shape. If I drop that 4th string down a fret, I got a G6. Here's another G7. And a G major 7. Moving over to C chords. C add 9 over G. If I fret the 1st string, that gives me C over G. Here's our bar C at the 5th fret. And a couple of alternatives to using a full bar. I could leave the 3rd string open, fret the strings around it at the 5th fret. That's also a C. Now if I were to leave the 1st string open, it's a nice sounding C add 9. Here is a C minor add 9 over G. C sus4 add 9. And finally, that is a C9 over G. Moving over to D chords. D5. There's our bar D major up at the 7th fret. If I were to leave the 3rd string and the 1st string open, that's a D add 4. Moving back down the neck, here's a D7. And this one is a D minor. And an alternate way to play D minor and a few other useful shapes. There's our A minor 11. Now I'm leaving the 3rd string and the 1st string open. I've raised that 2nd string up to the 2nd fret. That gives me an A7 add 4. Here also is one E minor shape for you, an E minor 7. And lastly, a couple of ways to play F. That's the F add 9 over C. This is another useful shape. This is an F that I'm playing on the 6th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, and I'm not playing the 5th and the 1st string. I'm muting them. But that's just a straight major chord that you can move around the neck and get any chord that you need. All right, so let's put some of these shapes to work in Wild Horses. So for G, you can just use that open, no fretting version. You could use this G major if you wanted, fretted at the 5th fret. I'm actually going to start off using this G5 in the intro. So you can really sub in whichever one you want. I'm going to use this A minor 11 and the same shape moved up 2 frets for our B minor flat 6. We have our C bar here, as well as, of course, we got this C add 9 over G. You can play it down open as well. And then for D, we've got our bar D up here, as well as this D5 down an open position. That depending on kind of where I'm going, I'll use one or the other. And then just one last shape is that F add 9 over C. So those are all the shapes used, and I'm going to keep this simple, but one little riff which is just nice to know. From the open G, hammering onto that 1st fret on the 2nd string, and then playing 2nd fret down to the open 3rd string, and then I land in the B minor. And then it also leads us into that A minor. So that's another nice thing to know. This song has these transition chords in it too. Like when we're on a C, sometimes I might use just a quick B minor to get back down to the A minor. Like that. Or from D. So that's D, C, D minor. So you can actually leave out those transition chords, but they are in the chart that you can find over on Patreon, and I'll have them listed here. So those are the basics of the song, and now I'm going to play through the whole thing. Childhood living is easy to do. The things that you wanted, I bought them for you. Graceless lady, you know who I am. You know I can't let you slide through my hand. Wild horses suffer a dull aching pain. Now you've decided to show me the same. No sweeping exits, no offstage lights could make me feel bitter or treat you unkind. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. I know I dreamed you a sin and a lie. I have my freedom, but I don't have much time. Faith has been broken, tears must be cried. Let's do some living after we die. Wild horses couldn't drag me away. Wild horses will ride them someday. All right, so there is Wild Horses and a bunch of chords to try in open G. Fun tuning to explore around. You can just kind of get lost in the sound of those open strings and see what you can find. So hope you enjoyed digging into this song and the tuning. Once again, I'm Jeffrey Pepper Rogers, and thanks for watching.